Tonight on Podcast Them Down, Mike Hates Everything, Christmas edition. Podcast Them Down. I'm Tim Regan from Winter Holiday Death Metal Project. It's a death metal Xmas, the most prolific, festive death metal band on the planet. Links to all the Xmas death metal you will ever need are in the description. Today I'm joined by Matt and Doug and of course Mike from ISENMOR and recently vacated Grace to discuss the metalness of Xmas movies.
All right, Christmas is a time for silliness and games.
Is it though?
And fun. Not really.
I think it's a time for many lacerations and blunt force trauma. That's right. We're talking about Christmas movies. See, you like that seamless transition?
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Dundalk. Yeah.
I see what you did there.
All right, so I have a list, as I often do, of Home Alone movies, 1 through 6.
Oh Christ!
Of Christmas movies, and Mike famously hates everything, including Christmas, and especially Christmas. So I was thinking we could just fly through the list, and Mike can hate it, and the rest of us can have a discussion about it.
I think that sounds good. It will be interesting to see how deeply Mike hates these things, because hate, some people would say, is just a different kind of love.
I can see that.
So, but are we setting? So, is Mike coming at this from an emotional angle, and then we'll come at it from the rational metal scoring angle?
I would argue that it would probably be the opposite. That I would be coming at it from the rational angle, because obviously these are all objectively terrible.
I think actually
Mike's already out of control. So this is perfect.
And because we've already admitted to Mike's blatant bias, I think that we can't use our regular spreadsheet-based rationality because there's just this bias. Like the data itself would be skewed. Right, so I think we just have to...
We only enter things in the spreadsheet if it is indeed objective and unbiased.
Correct. Correct. Right. And we know that every opinion Mike is going to have today is objectively wrong. And so because of that, we can't taint the honor and validity of our spreadsheets with this, source of bias. This heteroskedasticity, if you will.
Yeah, so before we continue, this episode is brought to you by the new It's a Death Metal Xmas album, which has yet to be titled and should be out hopefully soon. Hopefully
I was going to show that for you.
Oh, well, you can do it later. But you
should really badly edit in the name of the album.
Yeah,
I like it.
Tim, I think it's called
Perfect. Santa. Metal Santa.
I'm really looking forward to listen to. All right, yeah, okay.
Perfect.
And Matt, you have been on several, maybe most death metal Xmas records in the past, have you not?
Well, I haven't, but my buddy Santa Claus has. However, I can tell you, having just spoken with him, that my favorite, he told me that his favorite album to record was actually, and, that's just amazing to me. They just... He tells me they keep getting better each and every year, even though there's been several years between the last one and this one.
What if your pause wasn't long enough and now Tim has to just cram the name of the entire album in there?
Well, that would be even more amazing. But you know what's just long enough, Mike, is the perfect album at a perfect length.
So, anyway, pick up the albums at it's a deathmetalxmas.bandcamp.com, and I think there's a Linktree link in the description below. Like and subscribe.
Smash that notification bell.
That's right.
Yeah, let us know that you're out there.
Yeah, comment. Tell us about your favorite death metal Xmas albums.
Also, you should make sure that you don't type in death metal Christmas. It is specifically Xmas. Because somebody keeps looking for these albums and writing Christmas and then gets misdirected all over the internet.
We hear about it all the time.
Yeah, so make sure that it's Xmas.
Right, which is
Tim,
the most...
tell us about the Death Metal Xmas merchandise, soon available on steelresolve.com.
I believe there's a shirt.
Yep. I can't wait for the Tom Turkey shirt, which I hear is coming out in time for next Thanksgiving.
But yeah, there's a shirt, and you can buy the shirt, and you can wear the shirt, and the shirt will, it's machine washable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cotton, and it's delivered straight to you.
Yeah.
And you can wear it to the next Death Metal Xmas show in 2025.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be an amazing show.
Up until last year, we talked every year about doing a show, but we'd start thinking about it too late.
Man, I can't wait for that show.
I was making a pandemic joke / commiseration. But
I thought that was just a we don't have our act together shirt.
Well, two things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get to movies. Look, I think we should come out of the gate, guns blazing. And obviously, I'm talking about Home Alone, which has no guns in it. Well, Home Alone 2 has a gun in it. Anyway, Home Alone 1.
You're already
Does not
wrong.
have a gun. Does not have a gun.
What about Angels with Filthy Souls?
Okay, well, that's an
gun.
on-screen. It's an on-screen gun.
All right,
Just saying.
Been a much shorter movie had that kid been appropriately trained and his parents left him equipped to defend the house.
Oh, yeah. So you're saying that Home Alone is a Second Amendment argument movie?
Yes. I mean, it would have been a much shorter and different movie, but...
Yeah. There would have been fewer hijinks. For sure.
Yeah.
My only real opinion about Home Alone, it comes from the Home Alone Nintendo game, which was developed by Bethesda Softworks, and that's for real.
Isn't that just like a clone of the Paperboy NES game? And they just put a little hat on him or something?
Oh, but if only it were.
No.
The Home Alone NES game is a game that as a child I hated so much that I attempted to break it, but I was too much of a wuss to actually do it successfully. It is just, the whole game is basically an exercise in futility, and then when you die you get Macaulay Culkin's face.
All right.
It's the worst thing ever.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean you tried to break it?
Like the cartridge?
Yeah.
I tried to break the cartridge.
Like with a hammer?
No, I was too much of a wuss. I just tried to break it with my hands, but I was 6. So I didn't really want to make my parents mad, so I didn't.
Oh, looks like Ellie Kemper is in the new Home Alone. But we're talking about the 1990 original. Well, the three of us are talking about the 1990 original. Mike's talking about the video game adaptation.
Hold on. Wait, we're just pausing it. Let me just pause it for a moment here. Because Mike is saying as a 6-year-old, he could have ripped an NES cartridge with his bare hands, but chose not to.
No, I think
because he didn't want to get into trouble.
I think we've established that I was incapable.
I mean, I encourage all the podcasts and downers to hit the rewind here and listen to what he actually said, because he actually said that he didn't because he didn't want to get in trouble, implying that he could.
I plead 6-year-old logic.
Okay.
Okay, so
or however old I was.
So for Mike's information, in Home Alone,
yes,
his very, very wealthy family, extended family, goes on vacation to Paris for Christmas, and they accidentally leave him home alone. Hence the title of the thing. Now, meanwhile, since they live
Weren't they visiting his brother?
Yes.
They're visiting the dad's brother, right?
Yes, who was in Paris for some reason. And they take a flight that doesn't exist, because there's no morning flight on American Airlines from Chicago to Paris. There never was, and there never will be. But anyway, they take that flight, and they left in a hurry. That's why they left Kevin. And two burglars, meanwhile, played by Joe Pesci and Maryland's own Daniel Stern, have cased the neighborhood, and they know all the families are going to be gone. So they're burglarizing the houses one by one, and they try to burglarize Kevin's house. And they realize he's there, he's home alone, and they figure they can just go for it. But they get very angry when he commits a number of felonies. In defending his house with unnecessary cruelty. And then, there's your movie.
Is this the Sticky Bandits or the Wet Bandits?
No, this is the Wet Bandits.
And they call themselves the Wet Bandits because at all the houses they were at, they clog up the sink and leave the water running.
That was a good job leaving the water running in every house. Now we know every place you guys hit. This is something a cop might say in that movie.
Yes, I used to, Matt knows I used to be able to recite this movie.
Oh my God. So Daniel Stern, Maryland's own Daniel Stern.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Was also the narrator on the Wonder Years.
Yep.
So I like to think that his character is Kevin Arnold all grown up, and his life took a nasty turn after Winnie rejected him, and it started him on a life of crime. That's the story I tell in my head.
I would say I'm looking at Daniel Stern's filmography, and that negative turn may have been when he starred in the movie How to Kill Your Neighbor's Dog, which is apparently an actual film.
Oh, dear. I actually liked him best as the voice. I believe he's the voice of Dogbert in the Dilbert animated series.
I believe you're right.
It aired on UPN, right?
It did air on UPN. And now you can...
He's the voice of Dilbert.
Oh, he's the voice of shit. He's the voice of Dilbert.
He is the Dilbert.
Well, the other day, in a very sad moment, I was browsing Tubi.tv, which I don't recommend anybody do. But if you do, you can watch the Dilbert animated series to your heart's content.
Isn't there a land filled with mud?
Yeah. Albonia, as I believe, is another fictitious country.
Oh, something I should bring up for Home Alone, because it's going to be part of an argument later, is this all takes place at Christmas. Everyone's out of town because of Christmas, and Kevin asks a mall Santa to tell the real Santa to bring all of his family back. So it is tied into Christmas. There's a lot of Christmas involved with it. Okay? So, I feel that is necessary to bring up. Anyway, should we move on so this episode isn't 4 hours long?
Sure.
I mean, I would like to hear Doug's opinion.
I think I gave it.
Oh, did he?
Listen to learn to listen.
Oh, man.
I give this movie 1 Home Alone out of 1.
So that's a 100%?
Oh, Mike loves it.
100% Home Alone.
What, are we passing judgment, like good or not, or what are we doing?
We have to have some sort of judgment.
I think we're doing a deep critical analysis.
Yeah, I think we're just exploring our feelings about these things.
Yeah.
The sound you heard was everyone jamming stop on their podcast machine. You brought up feelings.
Doug told me it's called a Geertzian deep description.
Oh, I don't know what the hell that is.
All right, let's move on. Home Alone 2, it's the next year. Kevin's a little older. And this time the family, for whatever reason, is going to Miami for Christmas. And Kevin makes a big point about there being no Christmas trees in Florida. And Anyway, there's a mix-up at the airport. Family goes to Miami. Kevin gets on the wrong plane. This is pre-9/11, and ends up in New York City. And
New York City,
and the Wet Bandits, now known as the Sticky Bandits, have broken out of prison, and they happen to be in New York, and they happen to run into Kevin, and they're going to rob Duncan's toy chest at midnight on Christmas Eve, I believe, and which is an analog for FAO Schwartz, the toy store right off Central Park, and I believe the relatives that they went to Paris to visit happen to have a house in New York, so Kevin hides in there, he lures the criminals in there, and then does more bodily harm to them. And there you go. Oh, and there's some homeless lady with pigeons and birdseed, and Kevin befriends her, and something about turtle doves. So there you go. There's Home Alone 2. So I know a lot of people don't like Home Alone 2. I like it just as much as Home Alone 1, probably because I'm dumb. So it is the same movie. It's like, let's just do the same thing, but in New York. Yeah, I get that. And I hate the turtle dove crap. But,
I mean, I would argue the situation in the first movie and the reason why it's so drawn out and the kids put in so much peril relates to bad parenting.
Mm-hmm.
The second movie is all about New York's restrictive gun laws.
Funny you bring up bad parenting, because in the fourth movie, Kevin's parents have broken up. And Kevin's like living with one of them, and French Stewart is one of the bandits. I forget. We're not talking about that. And I think they stopped being about Christmas. So... Oh, and so Kevin reunites with his family at the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree because his mom knew that he'd go find the biggest tree there is, Christmas tree. So there you go.
I think we should address one of the more important things is that the video game adaptation of Home Alone 2 is a marked improvement from the original NES on the Super Nintendo. It's a significantly more playable game. That's not to say that it's good, but the NES one was that bad.
And I think Doug brings up a good point that the first movie is about personal failings. The second movie is very much about social failings. There's a whole litany of people who failed Kevin, from Cedric, the goon who brings your bags up in the Plaza Hotel,
played by Rob Schneider,
to a creepy concierge Tim Curry, to Mr. Duncan, to possibly every police officer in New York City. But what I like the most about Home Alone 2 is the crass commercial aspect of it, because you can buy Sony's Talk Boy, you could buy the green monster slime that's figured prominently, and so I don't know what studio produced Home Alone, but they really knew what they were doing in the second one, and I actually agree. If you were going to make a cynical Christmas movie, Home Alone 2 much better than Home Alone the original.
Well, now that you put it that way,
Die Hard 1 and 2. Yeah, I agree.
But now that you put it that way, Matt, I would say that maybe Home Alone 2 is like one of the most accurate Christmas movies of all time. Because the cynicism, I think, is just reality, right? Like that's just how Christmas is.
I mean, there's a conceit in Home Alone 2 that Mr. Duncan of Duncan's Toy Chest, a man who owns a store and is paying Midtown right off the park rent, is taking all the money he gets on Christmas Eve and donating it to the Children's Hospital, which I find either A, means that he's such a robber baron that he can write off all his profits on Christmas Eve of all days for a toy store, or Kevin is going to bat for a liar. And either way, it's sort of sickening to me, and I think that's great. Kevin is very much a pawn of these larger forces, be they the criminals, his absentee family, or the heartless big city. He's just a pawn in a larger game. He is very much not in control, as he was in his domestic environment in the first movie.
So it's really an indictment of American culture.
Yeah. It might be the most anti-American movie ever.
Oh. Wow. This is heavy.
Yeah.
Home Alone 2 is heavy.
Yeah. People who love it hate America.
Wait, did you say you love it?
Oh, I mean, not me, but other people. And by love it, I mean who loved to write it. Because the writers should be in jail for treason.
All right, you want to move on?
I concur with the substance of Matt's argument.
And to add insult to injury, a future president appears in it. We'll just leave that there.
This movie became retroactively topical.
Well, he's another adult that fails.
Yeah.
The kid.
No, actually, Doug, he doesn't, because he gives him the right directions.
That is true.
He could have done more.
Could have done more, but you know what? Kevin asked one thing, and that's all the future president told him. Because America's not about giving people more than they ask for.
Wait. All right. Next.
I give this movie 0.75 Home Alone 2s.
So 0.75. So that's a Home Alone 1.5.
Well, I think because of the unit of measurement as itself, this is somewhat of a paradoxical rating system, which is basically why I rated it this way.
Well, I like only Mike rating it. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I like that. So I also just did the math. So 0.75 Home Alone 2s is equivalent to 1.5 Home Alone 1s, I believe.
Well, no, there's no system of equation that establishes the relationship between Home Alone 1 and 2.
I see.
Yeah, Home Alone 2 is it's the full variable is just Home Alone 2.
Okay.
So Home Alone 2 is 0.75 Home Alone
2s. Okay. So it's 3/4 as good as itself.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
Here we go.
All right.
Die Hard. Or the German title translates to Die Slowly, which I like more.
Wow, that's awesome.
Really?
Yeah, it's
wow.
Stirb langsam, Die Slowly. So,
Dude, it's metal as shit.
I'm more familiar with the It's a Death Metal Xmas version of Santa Heart.
Yeah.
That was Death Metal Xmas 9, so maybe someone else should explain what happens. Something about this Bruce Willis and Hans
Bruce
Gruber.
Willis fights a Severus Snape in a building somewhere in America.
Yeah, I think it's
Alan Rickman. Right? It is in L.A. Alan Rickman plays a German, but refuses to use a German accent.
And they drop Alan Rickman before he was ready, resulting in a genuinely surprised look.
Wasn't he the guy on Man vs. Food?
No. That's Alan.
That's Adam.
Who's that guy?
That's
Adam Richman.
That's the joke.
It is fun watching earlier episodes of Man vs. Food, and then later where you can see his health declining from all the participation in Man vs. Foods. It's kind of sad.
So,
but
Die Hard is an effective movie. It's not worthy of its classic status.
Thank
It's
you.
a little too long, and the movie is so cynical in a way that's stylistically appropriate, but the cynicism actually interferes with the suspense. It's like when you know FBI agents Johnson and Johnson, no relation, show up.
Yeah.
They're going to do absolutely nothing that could possibly contribute to the outcome. And it's like that at every stage.
So I'm going to do a compliment sandwich here. I love that Reginald Vell Johnson is in this movie. That's amazing. Best part of the movie, by far. Next part of that.
He's also the best. He's also the best part of Crocodile Dundee. And if you haven't seen his part in Crocodile Dundee and don't remember it, you're missing out.
All right. And then next part of the sandwich. I don't consider it to be a Christmas movie. You could easily take it out of Christmas. And it came out in July. It's not a Christmas movie. It just happens to take place at Christmas. It's not integral to the
100%
story.
agree.
And then
the second movie, on the other hand, but we'll get there when Tim gets there.
That's true.
Yeah, and then I really like Reginald Vell Johnson's performance. It's fantastic. So that's my sandwich. It's all Carl Winslow.
It has its moments. I think there's unfortunately, I feel too often that's everyone's cute answer to what's your favorite Christmas movie. Everyone will say like, it's Die Hard, man. Yes, Die Hard does take place during Christmas. But as you clearly mentioned, it was released in July. It wasn't released as a Christmas film.
Yeah, Batman Return also takes place during Christmas. Is that a Christmas movie?
Right, and that was released in the summer as well, as I remember well. Right, yeah. I mean, so I think we need to separate Christmas-themed movies and movies that take place during Christmas. So I agree, Die Hard is a movie that takes place during Christmas. I mean, I think the only reason for Christmas is they couldn't think of another holiday that would have an office party. Right? I think that's the conceit to get everybody in Morimoto Towers or whatever it's called. But beyond that, Christmas it's not thematically a Christmas movie. No one learns a Christmas lesson.
Yeah.
And so in that case, I just don't think it counts as a Christmas movie.
I was expecting
that may be why.
I was expecting more.
That may be why this. That may be why this is my favorite Christmas movie, because it just has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas in reality.
Because Mike hates Christmas.
All right, how about... Yeah. Oh,
I do like the limo driver. We need to give a shout out to the limo driver character, who is also great. I don't have his name up here, but that's a great character. I mean, it's a good action movie. It's in the top 6 Die Hard movies. But
I'd place it in the upper echelon of Die Hard movies because they get pretty bad.
I don't know.
It is only one of 3 of the 5 Die Hard movies to actually feature the John McClane character instead of a character called John McClane.
Okay, I mean, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so Mike, rate Die Hard, please.
12 Die Hards.
Wow. Is that good?
Wow.
That's good, right?
It feels good.
All right. Die Hard.
Yeah, I'm into Die Hard. Die Hard's all right.
2. All right, so what do you got on this, Doug?
This is a better movie.
All right, let's move on then. How many Die Hard 2s do you give Die Hard 2? So, I don't remember the last time we've seen it, and we did not do Santa Hard 2 for It's a Death Metal Xmas, so I can't really speak to this one.
Yeah.
It actually involves Christmas, since it's all about Christmas travel in an airport. I think there's snow in the airport.
Yeah.
There's a lot of snow in the airport, even though it's Dulles. But like the version of Dulles that exists in Denver. And there's a classic scene where he uses the Pacific Bell telephone. And
you know what?
Constantly saying, how can the same shit happen to the same guy twice as they recycled the same plot points?
Yep.
I think you and I watched Die Hard 2. That's the last time I saw it.
Yeah, and it's actually entertaining.
I remember you pointing out the Pacific Bell phone.
And I wanted you to put that in the Christmas album.
Well, it'll be in Santa Hard 2.
When we get to Santa Hard 2, I'm sure we will. John Leguizamo's in it.
And you get both whoever the bad guy is, and Robert Patrick, who's just the same bad guy but younger.
Yeah, yep.
William Fincher, or I forget his name, but yeah, and then you get the when they all the spectacle that the first movie lacks, like when they modify the glide slope, and then poor Colm Neely's DC 8 crashes.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, it's a much better movie.
Now I'm thinking
about
of airplanes. So.
Are you talking about the same DC-8 that was used to transport? I'm trying to tie this into Scientology. Are you familiar with this?
Oh God! Is it the DC-8s that Xenu used to bring all the Thetans to that volcano and drop a million atomic bombs? Or are you talking about those DC-8s?
Is this the same DC-8, or do you think this is a different DC-8?
Well, Mike, first of all, those are spacecraft that just happen to look identical with DC-8s. I don't think that was a Xenuian spacecraft.
Damn. It really changes the movie for me.
So this is not a prequel to OT-8.
Damn. I was really off. I really misinterpreted this film.
All right.
I mean,
and then few Christmas movies end up with the lead character blowing up a 747 and killing 30-some people on it.
It's actually
cut to the happy music.
It's just this one and the Santa Claus 2. And that was the surprise ending for the Santa Claus 2 as well.
I was about to say
and then somehow they blow up the plane. Yeah, remember, Matt? And then the fuel on fire allows other planes to land on that same runway.
In the fire. Okay, yeah. I mean, this has got to be worth at least 12 Die Hard 2s.
Well, so here's the problem. Rating-wise. Sorry, Tim. I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, I was just going to say, is this more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard 1, then yes?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. It's Christmas themed. It was released also in July, but for some reason it feels more Christmassy.
Well, it's about people getting to Christmas at least.
Yeah.
All right. My only problem with Die Hard 2 is that I don't remember anything other than the fact that Bruce Willis is in it. I'm not sure if I've ever seen Die Hard 2. So I'm going to give it one Bruce Willis on a plane. I think that's a fair assessment given what I've seen of it.
That is a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I can't deny that.
You do learn that the Dulles police talk just like they're out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, I can't even picture who John Leguizamo is, if I'm being completely honest with you. So I can't even picture who the bad guy is in this film.
Wasn't he Luigi?
I'm really out of my depth.
Wasn't he Luigi in the Mario Brothers movie in the 90s?
He was Luigi in the Mario Brothers in the 90s. Reginald Johnson does reprise his role. We didn't mention that, but we should.
Yeah, and then Bruce Willis is somehow magically an LA cop because seniority and how all that plays into your pension apparently doesn't matter to him. Just write off all that time I spent in New York.
And until he's in New York again, a movie later, but that's another thing.
And outside the Christmas scope.
That's true.
All right.
The Die Hard 3 is my favorite.
And the ending of Die Hard 3 was filmed at a truck stop in Laurel. Laurel, the junction of 175 and where that Goodwill is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, I believe that's Jessup, Maryland.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
We also, I mean, it's not appropriate because, as we've established, Die Hard with a Vengeance is not a Christmas movie, but we need to talk about blockbusters because there's an amazing story how the real Die Hard 3 became Speed 2, and Die Hard with a Vengeance was actually a Lethal Weapon movie, and it's just incredible. But we can't talk about that now.
Oh, man.
Only Speed 2 or a Christmas movie.
Oh, man. Speed 3 Claws Control. I'm gonna call Sandra Bullock as soon as we're done.
Claws Control. Or that could be the new Santa Claus movie, Claws Control.
Yeah, it could be the third Santa Claus and the third.
Except Clause Control in terms of the Santa Claus is just like lawyers in arbitration trying to...
Yeah, and it's the movie's about fighting about the rights to this movie. It's actually a legal thriller. If you like intellectual property law, you'll love Speed 3 Clause Control.
Yeah, I mean, the premise is a little contrived, but it gets intense.
They interview lawyers coming out of the theater, and they're like, well, it was accurate.
Your Honor, I move for third-party arbitration.
I bet Legal Eagle would do a video on it.
Oh, man, I bet I would watch that Legal Eagle.
All right. Moving along. A Christmas Story. That's the movie that's on for 24 hours on Christmas. Just on repeat on TBS. All right, so it came out in '83, and it is about a young boy named Ralphie in the 1940s who wants a... Oh, I had it right here. He wants an official Red Ryder carbine action 200-shot range model air rifle, and he's trying to convince his parents, his teacher, and Santa that it's the perfect gift for him, and that's the... And then a bunch of stuff happens.
And there's a there is a shipment from Italy, and it says fragile on the side. And the last time I saw it, I forgot about the joke, so I made the same joke, and I didn't realize that joke was going to be in the film. So that made me feel horrible about myself because it's supposed to be a terrible joke.
That
let's see, the mom eats soap.
No,
I remember that part.
After she punishes Ralphie for saying fuck.
Yeah.
No, he clearly said fudge.
Only he didn't say fudge. And then, that shipment was a major award that his father had won.
Yep.
And then there's the whole Ovaltine thing. And then there's the Bumpus's dogs eating their turkey. I enjoy the movie, even though, it's just a bunch of stuff that happens. The end.
I do enjoy the movie.
Oh, that's shocking.
But it's also one of the only films that I've actually seen all the way through that we've talked about so far.
Well, I think
I would enjoy...
Everyone sees it all the way through in bits and pieces every year.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot more when it wasn't a thing crammed down our throats.
I understand.
And for me, it's weird. There's just something about this is essentially a 40s nostalgia film. This is a film for people who were in their 40s, 50s, in the 80s, thinking about the good old days when they were kids in like 1944 or whenever this is supposed to be.
So would you say
it's definitely the four?
Is this kind of like the Stranger Things of now?
This is exactly what it is. So this is just like nostalgia porn, but our generation is so bereft of an actual pop culture or an actual childhood that we have nostalgia. So we like this movie, which is someone else's nostalgia, and we've made that our object of nostalgia. But again, in sort of a crass Home Alone 2 kind of way.
Well, I think
it's a very salient critique. Yeah.
Isn't a lot of Christmas stuff nostalgic for like the 1950s post-war Christmas anyway? Like all of it?
I think that's true. But I mean, this is... but I think we filter that through our own experience. Like, we remember our parents thinking, now I like this because my dad liked that because my grandma did this, right? But this is as if we've like taken the memory of our parents and shoved them into our brains, right? And it's like, wasn't that Howdy Doody radio show great? There's just something that's always disturbed me. I mean, I don't want to go full Star Trek Insurrection here, but there's a scene, Doug knows what I'm talking about, in which Shinjan's Viceroy assaults Troy's mind. And I feel very much that I've had someone else's memories implanted into me forcibly that I can't get out. Like, my thought of Christmas is this disembodied 1940s Christmas, and I don't know why, and I don't know how I relate to that, except like it's indelibly stamped on Christmas that it's, you know, walking down street and writing in cursive and finding out about the war or whatever else they're doing here, and Darren McGavin being grumpy and Red Ryder BB guns.
Yeah, Carl Kolchak being in the movie is the only plus to me. It's the only thing I remember. But I do resonate with the thrust of Matt's argument there. It's how I feel about Superman Returns. Which has forever changed. I mean, my Superman is squarely whatever the hell happens in Man of Steel.
Oh my God.
But no, they just shove this false Christopher Reeve Superman. Anyway.
So, Mike, how many Christmas stories
I knew something creeped me out about that movie, but I always assumed it was Kevin Spacey and Bryan Singer.
You're right. Doug talking about comic book movies is my favorite Christmas movie.
So how many Christmas stories do you give a Christmas story?
I can give it 0.8.
0.8
wow.
Christmas stories. All right.
That's a really strong score. Not as strong as the one Home Alone ones, but up there.
I mean, Die Hard still is the crowning jewel,
right.
I think.
Well, prepare to have it de-seated. Next, we should talk about Jingle All the Way. So, in Jingle All the Way, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a workaholic dad who repeatedly disappoints his kid. And so he decides that the best thing to do is to get a toy to buy back his kid's love. And it's a Turbo Man action figure or doll. And But he runs afoul of a mailman played by Sinbad, who is trying to get the doll for his kids. And so a bunch of stuff happens for a while, and then eventually Arnold Schwarzenegger ends up dressed as Turbo Man during a parade, and then secures a Turbo Man action figure, and then loses it to Sinbad. And then they fly around. Yes, like literally, he flies around for a while. So there you go, Jingle All the Way. So my opinion is it sounded like they started with, like, your cookie-cutter Christmas movie, and then the studio got their hands on it. They're like, what if he flies around? Can't this Turbo Man fly? Let's make him fly. And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, and I forgot. Phil Hartman plays a nosy neighbor who's trying to nail Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife. So that happens too.
It sounds like 2 acts of a regular Christmas movie and then the 4th act of 2001.
It is.
Or was it a different kind of flight?
It is
He's got like a jetpack.
It's jetpack.
It's part of the suit, but it's a fully functioning jetpack. And then during the fight scene with Sinbad,
so it's like
Sinbad
RoboCop
is dressed
3.
as the enemy.
But we don't understand how that happens at all. And you missed out a lot of stuff, like Booger plays a sidekick at one point. There's a whole weird mall Santa subplot.
Oh yeah.
It is really.
I'm pretty sure that mall Santa scene was the seed that became Bad Santa 8 or 9 years later, right?
Possibly,
fantastic movie.
But Jim Belushi is to describe. There's no way to describe the plot of Jingle All the Way without sounding like an insane person. And the fact that it was given millions of dollars to turn from someone's crazy idea to a crazy reality is just incredible to me. I don't.
Is it a direct sequel or just a spiritual sequel to Last Action Hero?
It's a spiritual sequel. It is one of those great movies in which they can't allow Arnold Schwarzenegger to be a foreign-born person. So despite being Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's a guy named Harold Langston, which I don't think are words that Arnold Schwarzenegger can say.
Harold.
I'm Howard Langston.
Detective John or what was it? John Matrix. If he can say John Matrix, he could be anybody.
But it's
all that matters.
It's just a bizarre, disturbing movie. I guess.
What's the body count?
People definitely die in this movie.
Especially in a certain version.
But I mean, there's a whole scene in which a dozen cops are blown up by a mail bomb. Yeah. Now, miraculously,
doesn't get more than 1996 than that. Well,
I mean, there's a whole mail bomb subplot that we just accept. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this movie.
I think it's also important to know that the sequel to Jingle All the Way came out 18 years later and is starring Larry the Cable Guy. Does that improve things?
There's a sequel? This is news to me. Well, I know what I'm watching.
I'm on the Wikipedia. Yeah,
I can't see how that movie could be more of a mess than the original.
Produced by WWE Studios and 20th Century Fox.
All right.
Like, I can't think of this movie, this Larry the Cable Guy movie, being more of a mess than the original. And I might have to watch it tonight.
All right, so you want to give it a rating, Mike?
Yeah, I love Phil Hartman, so I give it 14 Phil Hartmans.
Wow!
Is that a must-watch?
Acknowledging that I don't know that my ratings correlate to a recommendation as to whether to watch it.
So use these ratings with caution. Is that what you're telling?
It's like salt. Like it'll improve My rating is meant to enhance a more thorough vetting by somebody else.
So I'm not going to, I would never question Mike's rating, but I would just say this. Apparently there were 3 movies that starred both Sinbad and Phil Hartman: Jingle All the Way, House Guest, and the Coneheads movie. And I submit you should watch Coneheads and House Guest first. If you're really jonesing for some Phil Hartman Sinbad synergy.
I've seen Coneheads, actually. I've not seen this, but I've seen Coneheads.
France.
Yeah.
We come from France. That's it for this episode of Podcast Them Down. We will continue this discussion next week.
Podcast Them Down.